It's kind of ironic that on the very same day that a lot of people are reporting on Final Destination Bloodlines somehow making $100 million in its opening weekend, we also have people in Hollywood coming out and talking about the lack of originality in cinema and the destructive nature of too much fan service. The movie gods work in mysterious ways. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
So I've been talking about this particular topic on the channel for a very long time. And even though we have actual people in the industry who basically confirm exactly what I'm saying, people like myself are still looked at as the bad guys for whatever reason. For some unknown reason, the absolute worst thing you can do in modern film discussion is demand better.
Boo this man!
If you just so happen to be one of those people who is not fooled by a recognizable franchise name, and you judge a movie not as a fan, but as a critic, you will most likely be villainized for it. I mean, I heard it all this weekend. Just be happy with what you get. Don't think too much. The majority of people disagree with you, and my personal favorite, you just want to be different. Now, obviously, this is not the first time that I've heard these things. It happens a lot, actually. And I think it's because these conversations online are now dominated by fanboys. And because of that, anyone who dares to be critical is looked at as an enemy. This is, of course, unless you happen to be a fanboy who is masquerading as a critic. Because those people validate all the other fanboys online and then try to make people like me look like we're out of touch. I've always been very good about being able to separate my critical side from my fandom side when it comes to judging movies objectively.
I don't believe you.
Even if it happens to be a movie that is contained within a franchise that I love. And that, my friends, is the difference between a fanboy critic and a critic. You see, a critic, if they are doing their job right, should be able to see through the smoke and mirrors. They should be able to see through the bullshit. They should be able to recognize troubling trends in the world of cinema when they see them. And that is something that, quite simply, a fanboy is never going to be able to do. And I'm not saying that necessarily to shame the fanboys. I mean, they're fans. They are doing what they are supposed to do. They have unconditional love for whatever franchise. My only issue is when those people come at me over my opinions when they don't match theirs. That's when I have to respond.
Not up in here! Not up in here!
What's funny is that I have so many people come to me every week and say to me, what makes you an expert? You're just a YouTuber. And you know what? I am just a YouTuber. I love movies, and I want what's best for them. But some people are never going to see it that way. So I thought that maybe if you heard some of the same criticisms straight from the horse's mouth, from a more credible source in your eyes, then maybe you'll understand what I've been trying to say. First, we have Dakota Johnson, who I know has been in some recent slop of her own with movies like Madam Web. But I'll give her credit for being self-aware enough to realize what the problem is and come out and talk about it publicly. She said to Variety, quote, "Some professionals who run studios don't feel the desire to make things that are different or risky or scary or dangerous or raw and real and human and messy. That's also really hard. As an actor, that is what I'm craving. As an audience member, that is what I am craving." Couldn't have said it better myself. Now I have to ask the question, will people respond to her with the same venom that they respond to me? Just shut the f*** up and keep making slop, Dakota.
Dakota admits, I probably will never do anything like it again because I don't make sense in that world, and I know that now.
She is literally talking about the studio's unwillingness to try something new. The way that they fall back on these recognizable franchises time and time again instead of thinking outside the box. What she doesn't mention is that the audience very much deserves some of the blame for this, because a lot of the audience members are not willing to embrace new ideas either. They want what's safe as well. As an audience member, as Dakota pointed out, I'm just personally looking for something a little bit more. There was a time when I would be excited for one of my favorite classic franchises to return, but now I have very little interest in that because we most likely know what it leads to, and that's more of the same.
No, don't like that.
My biggest criteria whenever I watch any new movie is that I hope that that movie shows me something that I've never seen before. There is nothing I hate more than watching a new movie and feeling like I've seen something very similar a million times before. And then we have Christopher McQuarrie, director of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, who told The Hollywood Reporter recently that fan service is poison. Now, fan service is typically defined as injecting a familiar element, callback, or inside joke in hopes of pleasing an audience even though it's not essential to the story. McQuarrie said, quote, "Fan service and fandom is poison. It's deadly. It's great when it's applied like a very strong spice, and judiciously. If you happen to have seen the other movies, great. I don't count on it. Because what happens when you add callbacks, the danger of that is that I'm asking you to leave this narrative and remember another narrative and then come back." Now, I'm not 100% positive, but I'm pretty sure that Mr. McQuarrie is suggesting that your movie should be able to stand on its own and not rely on things like Easter eggs and nostalgia. Also pointing out that those things could potentially take you out of the movie that you are attempting to watch. Again, something that I've said many times before.
Man, I'm tired of being right.
Now, can fan service be delivered in a way that's satisfying and doesn't disrupt the movie? Of course. And I would actually say that a movie like Top Gun: Maverick was very good at doing that. But that tactic has been done to death in movies at this point. So much so that I'd be perfectly content if I never see a stitch of fan service in a movie again. To me, Mission Impossible movies, for instance, are not terribly original, but they're always pushing the envelope to a certain extent. Always at least trying to outdo the previous entry in both spectacle and story.
I like it a lot.
Does Tom Cruise strike you as the type of actor who is complacent? Far from it. Tom Cruise takes his craft very seriously, and he does things that nobody else on this planet would be willing to do for a movie. And to me, that's why these movies deserve our respect. And yes, to me, each entry of the Mission Impossible franchise is able to stand on its own. That's why I'm excited for another Mission Impossible movie in a way that I would not be excited for a sequel to another franchise. To me, it's all about what the filmmakers put into it. Does it feel like a cash grab? Does it feel lazy? Or can you feel their love for cinema in every scene? What I don't want is another paint-by-number sequel that just regurgitates the same concept over and over again to the same results. If I'm the bad guy for demanding better, then so be it. I'll be the biggest villain in the world if it means standing up for what I believe in. The bare minimum might be enough for some people, but it will never be enough for me. Not anymore, because I know that there are people out there, creative minds, who are capable of so much more.
Y'all be cool. Right on.